Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Dr. Testosterone, starring Dr. George Tuliados. And today we have a very, very special guest joining us all the way from Dubai. Please welcome Sergio Oliva Jr. What's up, Sergio?
What's up? What a welcome. Jeez, thank you.
It's been
Hello,
a minute.
Sergio. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. It was very generous of you. So I kept my promise having you in the show a couple of weeks after we met in Dubai.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it had to get you to come on here because I hate Ron, so I'll come on.
I was just saying the last time I talked to you, Sergio, you were in Australia. You were stuck in Australia because you had done the Arnold Classic in 2020. And then the Arnold Australia was supposed to be a week later. It never happened that year. But you were stuck there for like 3 months or something. But I think you had only been there a week or so. And all the gyms back home in San Diego had been shut down. So you weren't interested in going back there. And you said, these people are different here in Australia. They're not savages. They're not shutting the gyms down. It was probably like the next day they shut all the gyms down, right?
No, they actually shut it down months later. So the
Oh.
whole time I was there, I literally enjoyed it. It was like one of the best times of my life still to this day.
Oh, wow.
But I was able to miss COVID completely. So yeah, when
Wow.
people ask me about what experience I had with COVID, I say, what COVID? Because I was in Australia for the first 3 months, and that's when California was its worst.
Yeah.
Was from pretty much because it was 3 months from March.
Yeah.
So April, May. So I was there like July. So from March to July was the worst in at least in San Diego.
Yeah.
So I was in Australia, and I was also in what's called Queensland, which is like it's where Australians go for vacation. So it's like the best part of Australia. So I wasn't even in Melbourne because they shut down pretty early. So when they finally opened the borders up for me to go back to America, that's when Australia shut down like worse than anyone.
Wow. Perfect timing.
Yeah. So when I got back to San Diego, the gyms were back open. So I can't even complain. I really miss COVID, except for I would have won that Arnold Australia. That was probably the only downside. I was definitely on a nice, it was a good showing I had, because it was that Arnold was Bonac, Rami, Dexter, Cedric. It was like 5 Arnold Classic champs, 3 Mr. Olympias. It was nuts. And I got 5th.
Yeah.
So I was really on a high note. And I had talked to Rami, Bonac, and Dexter, who beat me. They weren't doing Australia. So I was really going there thinking I was going to win. I even messaged Josh Nenardowicz a couple times joking how it might just be me and him because I don't know if anyone's going to fly to Australia. Yeah. And then they shut it down. So
wow.
Yeah, Josh, he was a runner-up and he was a finalist in that show. And actually, you got the posing award from Arnold himself, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, that was that year that I got it the first time. Yeah, and he came out and he talked to me because he doesn't come out anymore. So.
No.
He
comes out
when I do the Arnold again, I'm gonna make him come out. I'll stand out there till he comes out.
Wow, I think it's I honestly think that's somehow related to COVID too. I think he doesn't want to catch
because he came out for Brandon. No, there was a couple classes he did it. Like now, what he does is he doesn't come out for men's physique. He doesn't come out really for the bikini anymore. And I think that may have started because of COVID, but I think also now he's just like, why? He can't even come up with it. He can't come up with anything more to talk about with the men's physique guys. After he burned, who was it? I forget his name. He's the one who wins all the. But remember, he was asking him, he's like, how come you don't train your legs?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. But he asks the same questions to everybody. It's like, how much training did you do? How much diet? Exactly. It's like a standard 4 questions that he asks everybody. But enough about Arnold. Let's talk about, man, you have not been on stage, Sergio, since early March of 2020. It's coming up on 3 years. So
no, dude, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
I'm on crack. You know that.
See, you forget about me just because I've been away. I literally did a show last October.
Is it Romania?
No, the Legion.
Oh, the Legion. Okay. Well, I didn't want to bring that up. No, I'm just kidding. That was you're right. I'm sorry. I got to interview Clarita in a few days, and I better remember that he won that show, or else I'll be in trouble with him. Man, but I just want to ask, what kind of improvements have you made? Because I haven't seen you in person since that Arnold. Maybe I should have put it that way so I didn't look as stupid. But that's the last time I saw you in person was the 2020 Arnold. And I see pictures and videos, but it's never the same as being there in person. I know weight isn't like the main thing, but weight and body parts, what have you been working the hardest on these past couple of years?
Well, if that's the last time you saw me, so then yeah, from that show until I did the Arnold, because remember they moved it back to September that year, last year. No, not last year. It was the year before.
Yeah.
They moved it to September, so that gave me a little bit more time. So I was actually really heavy for that show. I was 285 on stage.
Wow.
So that was the biggest I've ever been, but it was the sloppiest I've ever looked. So that's just proof that the weight means nothing. And I think I got really caught up. And once I heard Bonac had not made his flight or whatever it was, something had happened. He didn't really make it. I got really excited, like, oh man, you know what? Like this Arnold is really open. And then I just tried to be big, and that's why it looked like a sloppy mess. So I had gained already a lot of weight from the 2020 Arnold to that one. I think it was like 9 or 10 pounds. So it was a good amount. But since I moved out here, I've actually just been working on the mental part of bodybuilding, really, to tell you the truth. This wasn't fun anymore for me, and I really wasn't enjoying it. And the pressures and just the pressures I put on myself had made it where, I wasn't enjoying it, like I said. So I really just wanted to come out here, kind of get away from all the noise, get back into enjoying training. And the gym here is the best gym in the world. So that makes it fun every day. But obviously, I don't have to tell you, if you're happy and your cortisol levels are down and you're eating like a madman, then everything's going to grow. But body parts in particular, I mean, yeah, who you've ever had anyone ever had a too big of a back? So that's not a thing. So I've been, definitely trying to get on my back. I wanted to get on a lot of things too that I lost, like my waist. I definitely wanted to try and work on getting my taper a little bit better. Chasing the weight, I definitely let my stomach go. So I've been trying to get on my abs. When I first started bodybuilding, my legs were like twice the size of my upper body. I remember one time I went like 6 months just not training my legs, just so my upper body would catch up. And that caught up to me. And now my legs are not my best body part anymore. And that really bothered me. So I really tried to come out here and really crush my legs while also keeping, a small waist. And then, just there's so many back machines at this gym that you can do. I'm doing back twice a week easily, and different exercises on each one.
Yeah. So, but Dubai, I know it's like the new hotbed. How did you end up there? Because you could have gone anywhere. You have literally could have gone anywhere in this world. What led you to Dubai?
Yeah, it's just exactly how everything happens for a reason. I did AJ's show. I know AJ's not part of MD anymore, but I did his show and I explained what happened. It's so wild because when I did the 2018 Mr. Olympia, just to go into it short because it's such a long story. When I did the 2018 Mr. Olympia, I was depressed. And I was definitely going through really hard times and really dark times. And when we did the athlete meet and greet for the Olympia, I just didn't want to leave because I knew as soon as I left, I had to then get ready for the show, which I knew I was going to not do well at. I was barely eating, and tried to even take my life. Oh, so the last thing I was thinking about is what I was going to place at the Olympia. Yeah, Ron, you know most of this, but maybe some of your listeners don't. So I remember just not wanting to leave, and every athlete left because they're getting ready for the show. They're not going to stick around. And because I stuck around so late, like even an hour past these guys, this guy from India came. And I remember meeting him, but not that much. But apparently I just gave such a great experience for him that he had reached out to me about 2 years later and was trying to ask me to go to India. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll go. It was a lot of money, so I couldn't even turn it down. It's not like India was the top of my list to travel to. I don't even like Indian food. But I wanted to go, and I really was just going for the money, to be honest. Yeah. And I always travel with my best friend, and her visa didn't get cleared. So we had to make like a emergency stop in Dubai to wait for her visa to clear and then go from Dubai to India. And then when we got there, they lost our bags. So we ended up being in Dubai for like a few days, which was really cool. But then I really got to experience it. And then I go to India, finished the Sharu Classic, and he was asking me how I thought Dubai was. And I was like, man, I really was nothing like I thought. I think Americans were just so ignorant. We think Kuwait is how all of the Middle Eastern countries are, and It's just, it is what it is. So I was really blown away by how amazing it was and how Americanized it was. Because that was the easiest part of when I lived in Australia for the COVID, but I also moved there for my ex-wife. So it's 2 times that I've spent a long time in Australia, and there's nothing, you know, I can say I lived in another country, but besides the metric system, there's nothing different besides Australia. But here I'm thinking, oh my God, like it's a different country, but you get here and it's so Americanized. And there's actually, English is the #1 language here, because now so many people have left their countries to come to Dubai. People in Russia because of the war, Australia and the UK to get away from all the COVID sanctions. So it's packed.
Wow.
So either way, long story short, he asked me how it was. I said I loved it. And he's like, man, if you ever want to come out there and just train at Bino's gym, because I talked about how cool the gym was, he's like, I can help you on a work visa and come over. And then, yeah, I went back, and I don't know what it was. I think one day I was just like, something needs to change, because I'm not going to be able to not only come back and be better than I've been before, but beat these guys in the mood that I was in with the whole sport. And the thing with Sean too really put me in a damper. Sean's passing and just that whole situation. Unfortunately, I couldn't really shake it off where I could just kind of like pretend like, you know, bodybuilding is all butterflies and, you know, happy moments, and it's just not, and it is what it is. So I was like, you know what, I want to go away for a little bit, maybe for like 2 months, and then I'll just come back and then start a prep or something. And I literally moved here, and within 2 weeks I'm like, I'm not leaving.
Wow.
So I just worked on getting my citizenship, and I did, and now I live here.
Wow, cool. Yeah, so Dr. George, you were telling me before we started recording, I did not know this, because you two know each other through a mutual friend, Rudy Panada,
Yeah.
Panada Equipment. I did not realize until you just told me, George, that when Sergio Sr. was at the 84 or 85 Olympia, when he held you up on 84, when he held you up and then he passed you off to Rudy to hold while he took some more pictures or something. Is that right?
No, he was holding the microphone, and Panada was holding Sergio Jr. Yeah.
So that guy actually held you as an infant. I did not realize this. So, but tell me about the whole Panada connection that you guys have.
Yeah, so Panada asked me to follow him in Dubai when we met at the Arnold Classic in Birmingham. First, I had a trip to Italy, and then he convinced me to follow him in Dubai. And the first time I saw Sergio Jr. was at right after the Mr. Olympia 2019, outside when we were recording and filming, things like that. He was wearing actually glasses, a pair of glasses, yeah. And then I saw him, of course, at the Arnold Classic on stage when he won the trophy of the best posing man by Arnold. And then I've been following him, of course, in social media, and I told him that I'm a big fan of yours, of course. And Panada asked me to do him a favor to bring Sergio in his booth. So I said hi to Sergio, please, Mr. Panada wants to talk to you. So, I mean, the chemistry was perfect between Panada and Sergio Jr., and he told him stories about his father, and there was a sentimental bonding between Sergio Oliva, the mythical figure of bodybuilding, and Panada. And then we went to Binus, I think, to the gym, and then there was the settlement of the agreement over there. And I told Sergio that Panada believes in your potential. He wants to help you. And the rest is history between them. You know, it's they set an agreement, and now officially he's a Panada athlete. I know that Sergio wants to compete at the Mr. O, and the qualification will start either from next Arnold in USA or perhaps in Australia. Now, I'm not sure if the FIBO, because Panada is going to organize the FIBO, is a major sponsor, and perhaps there is an open door there for Sergio to compete. But definitely the goal is to be on stage at the next O.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean,
but I have to tell you, I was super impressed by the enormous size and roundness of Oliva. His delts and his arms, man, it was so big. I mean, he looks over 300 something, you know, very, very dense and very powerful. Yeah. And actually this Binus gym, I told him, is this as good as the Gold Gym in LA? He said, oh, by far much better.
Yeah, Sergio, it seems to me like these gyms out there, Kuwait, Dubai, they're like a whole other level. They look to me like the size of a shopping mall. Are they as big as they look, or are they as well equipped as they look? Because I'm only seeing little snippets in the videos and pictures.
Yeah, it's really honestly bigger than what you think. It's more than what I thought, you know, watching videos of, Andrew out here and Larry Wheels. And just when the guys come and travel for the shows, you've seen Bonak come in and out of here. I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was this big. It's literally 3 times the size of the gym that I was training at in California.
Wow.
They have like 3 restaurants, a barbershop, like another smoothie place, another private gym. Like, it's just so much things in there. And look, I think it's a combination of 2 things. I think it's partly that there's a really great love for the sport out here in bodybuilding. That's just kind of gone under the radar in America, because no matter what, you're going to make more money off of a corporate gym. You know, you get family memberships, daycare, Zumba classes. And unfortunately, that's what the gyms are today. You know, you're going to make more money. You're not going to make money off of bodybuilders anymore. Yeah. You know, we have a gym membership and the rest we have sponsors. So we're not like we're buying the drinks or the food, or we're not getting personal trainers through the gym. So I get it. You know, in America now, it's just, no one's going to open up a new gym. That's why it's so crazy that Flex opened that gym and everyone's just blown away, because it's actually a gym for bodybuilders. But that's how life used to be all the time. There wasn't gyms for, you know, the average family, like the LA Fitnesses and 24-hour fitnesses and stuff like that. So I think it's a combination of they just have a huge love for it. And then there's just so much freaking money out here that they don't even know what to do with it. Wow. So then they just keep being in competition with each other. So I'm even just now learning now that there's so many, because there's another gym out here called Olympia gym. And then there's also an oxygen gym out here, but it's a little bit further of a drive. It's about an hour drive from here in Abu Dhabi. But they all are really in low-key competition with each other. They all really low-key don't like each other. And it's just pretty much like a, you know, dick measuring contest. And if they get something new at their gym, then they want to get 2 of those things at their gym. And that's why it's really cool that I'm at the gym that are even going to start working hand in hand with Panada to even make some special equipment that are going to be at this gym that are not going to be at any other places. So that's really cool. But the other gym, I'm actually probably going to go train at a couple times, which is called Olympia gym. And it's, when I first moved here, they told me that I should go there because it's the same size, but there's no women allowed. There's no music. You just go, listen to your headphones, and then that's it. So it's a very serious style gym. So when you're getting ready for prep, that's really what you need. And especially me, I moved out here for no distractions, thinking that there was going to be no female distractions either. And it's seriously some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't even understand it. So I really messed up on that, thinking that there was going to be no distractions here. So I'm probably going to go prep at that gym just so I can really go all out for my next show.
So some of the gyms allow women, some of them don't, because I know Kuwait, none of them do it. It's a little more lax as far as, you know, I'm not an expert on Muslim culture, don't pretend to be, but are some of the gyms are co-ed?
I'm learning too. So what it is there was the old laws and the new laws. So back in the day, everyone used to follow the same laws. It was that you work on Sunday, Friday and Saturday are the weekend. There's no drinking. There's no women at gyms. They're not even allowed to work out. You can't hold hands with women. You can't show public affection. So if you look up the rules, it's funny because when all the guys came for the Dubai Expo this last or 2 weekends ago, everybody was messaging me like, is this true? Is this true? Because if you look up the laws of Dubai, it's actually very scary. It sounds like you're just kind of like in a prison, but it's not. So Dubai is like the Las Vegas, where they don't follow any of the rules of everyone else. Wow. So they have liquor, they have gyms that are co-ed. You can, you know, go to the beach and be in a 2-piece or bikini or even a thong. Oh, wow. Where in other places you cannot be like that. Like you can't even hug, you can't hold hands, nothing like that. So the Olympia gym just happens to be in that area, which is called Sharjah, where they still follow the old laws. Where Bino's gym is in Dubai, where anything goes.
Wow. Because I think you know John Livia, he does a podcast, Serious and Seriousness, and he started one for us called MD Muscle Talk. King Kamali was on. He was talking about Dubai. He said, you know, the US, they have not only no appreciation for bodybuilders anymore, but we're like, you go into Gold's Gym, it's like they don't care if you're Jay Cutler, they'll make you pay the $50 day fee or something. He says Dubai, he's been there a few times. He says they still treat bodybuilders like like rock stars over there, really like, wow, you guys are awesome. We love you. Whereas in America, you're like, stupid juice heads, get out of our gym. Have you found that the gyms over there are very, very much accepting of bodybuilders?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. The gyms are made for bodybuilders. So if I were to go to the owner and be like, man, I really want to get this machine in the gym, then they'll order it. I've been, and I'm nobody in the sport, but I definitely have one of the best bodybuilders in California, for a long time.
Yeah.
And not that you do this for murals and pictures on the wall and stuff like that, but I'm still paying for my gym membership in San Diego still to this day. I'm still paying for my membership because I'm not there and I have to keep paying for it. And I don't think that I should get anything for free or anything like that. I'm just showing as a comparison. Obviously, I don't pay for the gym here, but also they put up a huge picture of me on the wall within the first, few months of me living there. And they even put my dad up, because my dad wasn't up there, which is kind of cool too, because I feel like I got my dad up on the wall. And now they have us both up there together. It's huge. Like, it's like insane. And I'm up there with like a line of, like Flex Lewis and Victor Martinez and Flex Wheeler's on there. It's like, it's insane wall to even be on. So even just that alone, and I'm a nobody, and I've really done nothing for the gym, because that's what it comes down to is, Andrew and Larry Wills have brought so much attention to that gym. They brought attention to Dubai. So they should get, everything that they get. But I'm nobody. I've done nothing for Dubai. I just moved there and I just have a love for this sport. And the owner could just tell how much I love this and how much I kind of want to like help it grow whatever way I can. And just something as simple as that really meant a lot to me. And I didn't even know. They didn't tell me. I just walked in one day and someone even just said, I forgot what they said. They said something like, wow, you look good or something. And I'm like, what? And then they pointed up at the ceiling and it's humongous. Like I can't even exaggerate enough to tell you how insane the size is of this picture. And yeah, it does nothing for paying your bills, but man, it really makes you just feel really, wanted.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that, especially coming from Gold's Gym, where like you said, the example you were giving is, yeah, they still charge Lee Priest $55 for his day pass when he was there. They tried to apologize after and say, oh, we're sorry, we didn't. It's all bullshit. And Gold's Gym being the place that only was started because of bodybuilders, to then treat bodybuilders the way they did, it was very,
Did they take down all the pictures? Did they take down all the pictures on the walls of the Mr. Olympia champs and all that?
No. I think that was just a rumor.
Oh, okay, good. That would be.
They're still up. No, because the person who bought Gold's is a real bodybuilding fan. It's like the German guy, right?
Wasn't he the one that's dead or missing from a plane crash?
I think it is. That's what I was wondering, if it was the same person.
Yeah.
Which is really wild. So he's a fan of bodybuilding, but the managers who run the gym, they came from an LA Fitness or 24-hour Fitness where, they have their numbers they have to beat. They don't care. It doesn't matter. They're just trying to get their bonuses. And I get it. Everyone has to pay their bills and take care of their family.
Yeah. Well, let's recap, because you're not a nobody. You're a New York Pro champion, top 5 in the Arnold. And that year that you were second in both Chicago and Tampa, I would have given you at least one of those wins. I was like, because they worked the shit out of you and both of those guys. It was Lockett and Roland. What was his name?
Yeah.
Puerto Rico. I was like, man, got to give Sergio one of these shows. Come on. I can't remember which one happened first. Was Tampa first? Or I think Chicago.
No, it was Chicago. Yeah, because that's when I was spiraling. Was after that Chicago loss.
Yeah.
Because that's when I was finding everything out that was going on with my life, and I found out when I lost that show. So that was a rough loss. But it is what it is. But yeah, if you really think about my career, it's kind of crazy because except for the Arnold and the Olympia, I've only been in the first call out of every show that I've ever done. Yeah. But if that's what I got into this sport to do, then it would be great. But unfortunately, I didn't. So it really just turns into everything that you named was a long time ago. And, you can have people that just started following the sport since Nick Walker's been been in the bodybuilding, and they wouldn't even know about those battles, because look at the New York Pro. It's like Juan Morel, John De La Rosa. They're both barely competing. One's retired. And then you have Akeem and Justin. They're still competing. Yep. But otherwise, everyone in that show is done, So it's a long time ago. So as much as that show was really important to me and it really changed my life on different levels, it was like 5 years ago.
It's insane that 5 years now seems like to these current kids. And I talk to kids that before Nick Walker, they don't know anything even existed. I'm like, are you kidding? I used to get mad when they didn't know who Lee Haney was. Now I get mad. I talk to kids, they don't know who Ronnie Coleman was or Jay Cutler. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're like, oh, we know Hunter, we know Chris Bumstead, we know Nick Walker, and that's it. I'm happy that social media has opened up this fan base, but are they really fans if they don't know any of the history at all?
That's what I say all the time, but then I'm the bad guy, But it is what it is. But yeah, I guess that's how it is with every sport, because look at the Jordan LeBron debates. You have people that are literally crying that LeBron is one of the best basketball players ever, or the best basketball players ever. But if you existed and watched certain people play any sport, bodybuilding, then it's just really hard to say claims, these statements that are just asinine. I just did desktop bodybuilding yesterday, and they asked me what are the top 5 bodybuilders. Yeah. I said of all time, I can't even pick 5, from my dad's era, like it's just so hard for me to even pick 5 people, because what category, just like who you like, who you feel like your body could look like. You have 3 or 4 people that beat bodybuilders we thought would never lose, Sean beating Phil and Jay beating Ronnie. Does that make them the best ever? You have people like Frank Zane, who weighed the amount as my little sister, winning a show, and they were able to make themselves look like they were so big. Isn't that the best bodybuilder ever? Yeah. So either way, it's just, if you really have only followed the sport for, a few years, then it's very easy to just be ignorant and say you support and you love bodybuilding and it's your life. But for me, I literally went to shows as a kid and have seen, it's really weird. I was thinking about it the other day. I think I'm the only bodybuilder to see the end and downside of bodybuilding first and then get into it. I saw the end of my dad's reign. I was able to watch guys that were his friends or people that were in the sport. Now they're struggling to pay their bills now out of bodybuilding, figuring out a plan B, or just dealing with injuries or things that come from bodybuilding. And then I'm like, man, you know what? I want to do this, which is nuts. It's usually you watch Pumping Iron, you look at magazines and you're so excited and you think there's this dream that you're going to be able to be rich and famous. Right. And then you get into bodybuilding. But I found out firsthand right away, before I even lifted a weight, that nobody will come to your funeral if you're a Mr. Olympia besides Sean Preem. That's the only person who came to my dad's funeral. Wow. So it's interesting to think that I saw all the bad that comes from bodybuilding and I still wanted to do it. So either bodybuilding is really that great or I'm just a sicko.
I have one last question. I'm going to turn over to George. When you started competing, Sergio, I remember seeing the pictures very early on, your first couple of shows, like, oh, Sergio Oliva's son is competing. I'm like, oh my God, he's horrible. He's never going to look like, he's never going to be big enough to be a pro bodybuilder. I don't know what happened. This kid got effed with the genetics. Did you know back then? Because you were like, I think you were like 185 or something your first show.
Yeah, 176. Yeah.
176. Did you know in your heart of hearts, even then, that you could look like this eventually? Did you have that belief?
I did, but only because I was very ignorant. I really thought, and I tell this story all the time because people hate on Phil Heath, but there was a time period where Phil was actually very kind and respectful and patient to fans that are nobodies. Wow. Not that was, that kind of sounded like a backhand compliment, but I met Phil when I was very young and he just won his pro card. He was at the not GNC. Who was his first sponsor? Metrics. Yeah. He was at the Metrics booth. That company doesn't even around. People are watching this, don't even know Metrics was a company, right? Which Blackman's dad started. Yeah.
No, Metrics was Dr. Scott Conley and Bill Phillips.
Oh, Scott Connolly, that's who it was, right? Yeah. So Phil's working the booth. He has no line. He's just by himself. He just won USA's. And I had just got into bodybuilding and I think I gained like 30 pounds in like a few months, which you obviously get when you just start working out. Yep. And I was talking to him like, oh, I gained 30 pounds, times 5 months, times 5 years. I'm going to be probably 280 pounds in like 3 or 4 years. Like I'm doing the math, like you're going to keep making the same gains you do from your first 3 weeks of working out. And he was just like, you know what, take your time, just make sure you're really patient, blah, blah, blah. Because if someone came up to me now, you get these random DMs from these weirdos all the time. Yep. They want to send you a picture and be like, how long is it going to take for me to be Mr. Olympia? And you got to be honest to them. And you got to be like, hey man, you know what? I think you need to really just have a plan B, focus on eating, don't put everything into this, and go all out, blah, blah, blah. And I think because I was just so ignorant, thinking that I could do it so fast, that I was just like, oh, this is going to be easy. Because you don't learn in Pumping Iron when you're watching it that once you grow all your body parts that want to grow easily, it takes another 10 years to grow the body parts your body doesn't want to grow.
So true. So true. Wow. Ignorance is bliss, man. It's
It
great.
is.
Yeah. I mean, I remember talking to like Skip, this is so random, but Skip LaCour, the guy who won a bunch of natural stuff, when he started, like within a year of training, he was bench pressing 500 pounds. And everyone was telling him, oh my God, that's crazy. That's crazy. How can you possibly do that? He goes, I didn't know that was a lot of weight. I had no idea. I was just doing as much as I could do. I didn't know 500 pounds was like exceptional or anything. So yeah, but I'm glad. I love being proved wrong. And I love seeing your body change over the years. And I can't wait for you to get back on stage, because I wish you would compete more. I know you're still a young dude, relatively speaking, but time is going by and you have that potential. I just want to see you capitalize on all of it, before it's all said and done.
I'm not that young anymore. So no, I definitely need to get on it. But like, this is how I look at it. Like if I wanted to just get into bodybuilding to get qualified for the Olympia and collect jackets for the rest of my life, then that's great, But it's true though, some guys that is their highlight. Some guys will get the Olympia tattooed on their body because they went to the Olympia. Right. They change in their bio of Instagram an Olympian because they went to the Olympia. I think that's the craziest thing ever. That's like getting the tattoo. I would totally get. Like I get it. When you went into this sport not even expecting that you would ever be great, and now you're going to the Olympia. That's great. Get the tattoo. But once you start calling yourself an Olympian, that means you really don't even know what that means. Olympian means you won the Olympia. You would never see me change my bio to put 2018 Olympian. That's just not a thing. Anyway, so my goal is to win the show. So would I rather make the smallest amount of progress or zero progress every year and qualify every single year? Going to Romania, Italy, Brazil, name all these horrible shows where you can't even name the winner of that show that won. And yes, I could qualify for sure, no problem. But then I'm going to place the same thing at the Olympia every single year. Or you don't do the Olympia and you just keep working on yourself and keep filling out the gaps and all the things like you said. I got the short end of the genetics deal. No, and you didn't. But I did, because I had to fill out this lengthy ass body that took a long time. Where my dad was a lot shorter and the limbs were just differently shaped. So, but either way. And then you make it to the Olympia and now you're battling to win it. I would rather do that. The problem is you've seen guys take too much time off and then they either never come back or they do. And it's just kind of like, meh, wasn't really that, spectacular to take that much time off. So that's all I can say is I won't be those. That's for sure. But I also don't want to be like, not naming names, but like Juan Morel. I love Juan Morel so much. I bet you he has more Olympia jackets than some of the winners. He's probably qualified for 10 plus Olympians. It's amazing. But I know if you ask him, man, what was your best placing at the Olympia? I bet you his better memories are winning the Brazil Arnold or the random other shows that he won, because he can't have any actual significant memories from the Olympia because it wasn't really any like time he was in the first call up. And I think he's like a Johnny Jackson, where his upper body was a walking Mr. Olympia nonstop.
100%.
It was just trying to fix that one body part that would, do that. So I don't want to be either one of those guys. I don't want to be someone like a Lionel Bayecki that you can easily be Mr. Olympia all you want, but you keep not doing shows. And we finally see him. He finally does a show. And man, it's just such a letdown.
Well, I mean, how close are you to your final form is what I want to know, because you look like you're as big as you need to be. You've been working on the body parts everyone said you needed to work on. You're 37 years old. You've got to be very, very close to as good as you need to be ultimately. Do you feel like you're there yet?
Yeah, I do. Out here, I feel really good. And the other thing about bodybuilding that you can't be taught is that whatever you did, and when I talk about this, people that don't compete, they just think it's just like excuses or just made up bullshit. But anyone who's competed knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you are not, unless you're in classic or a weight restricting 212 class, if you're in an open class where you can just grow and grow, the way it works is whenever you grow and gain a bunch of weight and make progress, now the diet that you did when you nailed it is different. And that's the problem is you think, okay, I'm going to eat X amount of rice, X amount of this to fill out, dry out with X amount of days. And then now because you weigh 20 pounds more and you're 10 years older, that you think your body's going to just saran wrap itself and be perfect on stage. And that's the hard part. So now I'm at the point where I'm not like physically, I feel like missing anything like dramatically. Of course, I want to work on a bunch, but now it's just to come in completely shredded and perfect this peak, you know, which is what bodybuilding is. It's not, bodybuilding isn't like you hit a pose whenever you feel like you're ready. It's being ready to hit a pose in that small window that they give you, you know, and that's the hard part. And that's just what I haven't figured out, because as soon as they say open, start pumping up, start getting ready, you got to get oiled up, tan, man, I get so worked up. I get this like so much adrenaline and so much nerves that go through my body. Even all the shows I did win, like even those shows I did well, I still had that feeling. So I think you just start to get better at controlling that, because you know that you are on, and that's what I want to do. So that's the main thing that I want to focus on, is I want to go to a show like Branch, Dexter. They look the same every single show. And if you look at their demeanor and their face, never are they nervous. Even if they're nervous, they don't look like it, because they know they did everything that they were supposed to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I seem to remember, was it the Tampa show where you left and went to the gym, I think it was MI40, and trained between judging and finals to keep the fullness in the muscles?
No. It was actually before prejudging.
Okay.
So now, which is another thing, I almost wish I was either born earlier or later, because when I was born and in this sport, I saw the best of both. So if I was just born a little bit later, I wouldn't think it's the most ridiculous thing not to have weights backstage. But if you ask bodybuilders today, they would say, what do you mean? There's weights backstage back in the day? They used to have a whole gym back there that you would work up, you know, pump up on. Yeah. And now, unfortunately, my body cannot do it on bands. Yeah, I've tried. I've just tried to tell myself, you know what, if they can do it, you can do it. And it just doesn't work. I can do a band for hours. I'm never going to get a pump. So in Tampa, I asked Tim Gardner, are they going to have weights? And now I guess it's a legal safety thing now, because it always takes one person to mess it up. I'm sure something happened. Somebody dropped a weight on somebody and they threatened to sue, and now there's no weights for anybody. It's like we're all in timeout. So I found out there wasn't going to be any weights. So MI40 was 15 minutes away. Yeah. So I literally had someone telling me what was going on stage while I was pumping up at the gym. And
bikini's on right now.
God, which is actually more stressful, because you don't know, because especially if you've been to a show before, especially a pro-am, it's like, okay, it's going to be in like an hour or two. And then it's actually like, oh, actually, no, you're going on in 10 minutes. Oof. It's never accurate. I don't think I've ever been to one show that anything's on time. So it was actually very stressful. But yeah, they're at the gym. They're telling men's physique, okay, bikini. Now it's classic. And then I race over there, drive over there, put oil on, and get on stage. So I look amazing because I just left the gym. Yeah. But I still lost that show. I got second.
I can't remember the last time I've seen weights backstage. Now that you mention it, it's been probably like 10 years.
Only the Arnold and the Olympia.
Yeah, wow. Those bands are pieces of crap. I hate those things.
I know.
During COVID, everyone had to buy them. Yeah, George.
When I did New York was the first time I found out that they weren't doing weights anymore, and it was my first pro show. And here comes Juan Morel with a huge gym bag, and he just takes out all these 80-pound dumbbells and like 60s, and he's just pumping up right in front of me. And I'm like, oh, this guy is a pro. This is what a pro looks like.
Yeah.
George. So Sergio, you told me that you just started your preparation for next year, right?
Yeah, literally today.
Oh, wow.
All right. And you told me you're going to kill it next year. It's going to be your year, 2023.
I have to kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. And you're training with Aceto, right? Your
yeah. I mean, prep coaching me. Yeah, he's coached me since I was an amateur.
Wow.
All right. And Panata told me that he's going to call you immediately for photo shooting, you know, and hopefully I'm going to be there. So are you really excited that moving to Panata as a Panata athlete? And I have to tell you that the Binance gym has a lot of Panata equipment. It's stuffed with Panata. Yeah.
There's so many toys here. Yeah, for sure. I've used Panata before, but this is the first time I've actually been able to continuously use it in my routine. as a staple. And there's 3 machines here alone, single-handedly, will change the way my back looked. Like, even if I don't even do anything else right, just those 3 are making me put a toll and tension on my body that I've never done before, which is really cool, you know, because that's something like my dad didn't have. My dad didn't have all these different types of toys. They had to be very clever and create these, you know, random ass exercises with sandbags and God knows what else. But then it just makes them realize how insane they really did look, that they're looking like what they did with what they had, you know. So the more I get into the sport, it's the only, you know, it's one of the reasons why I really wish my dad was around longer after I started competing, because it really, even if we didn't get along, you know, personally, like just me now getting into the sport, it's really made me have a different respect for him in the sport. Because when you grow up and your dad is just your dad, you don't look at him as like a bodybuilder or Mr. Olympia. And my dad was retired by the time I was, you know, 2 years old. So I only knew him as a police officer. But the more that I get into the sport, I look at pictures of him. Even I have some of the autographs that he used to sell that I even used to help him at the booth with. It's so crazy that I can look at the picture I've looked at my entire life. And now I'm like, how did he do that? How did he even do a pose where he's like twisting, has a vacuum? It's just, I can't even do it. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I always wondered, sorry to interrupt, but I always wondered if we could put your dad, make him 28 years old now with everything that we have available, the equipment, the food, the can we say gear, everything that we have now that really wasn't in place back then, what would he look like? I really wonder, because if he looked that good, I remember interviewing him and he was telling me he used to eat like frozen pizza and Pepsi Cola every night. And I'm like, oh my God, and you still look like that? I don't know. I don't want to make this all about your dad, but there's a few guys from that era that I wonder what would they look like now if they had access to everything the bodybuilders today have access to. It would be crazy, I think.
No, it is cool. And no, it doesn't bother me. It used to bother me. Obviously, you know, I'm trying to make a name for myself and everyone just kind of wants to talk about your dad. But now that I'm older, I get it, because like, look at Rudy, you know, the person who owns Panada, you know, just hearing him, watching him talk to other people, it's just kind of like, yes, okay. Obviously there's a language barrier. It's just like, yes, no, yes, you know, just very calm. And then when he's talking to me, it was almost like he was back in the stands of the '84 Olympia. He's got goosebumps. He's so excited. He's like talking so loud. So now that I'm older in the sport, I really love seeing people almost time travel by talking to me, you know, and it really has nothing to do with me. It has to do with this impact that my father made on these people. And it's got to be, I can't even imagine, like, the only person I've got into the sport with and then they had a kid, like they didn't have one and then they had one, would be like Hunter's daughter growing up. And then me talking to her about how I remember when he found out her mom was pregnant, and, you know, how he was figuring out his workouts around trying to go to the doctors and stuff like that. So that's the only thing that I can relate. So when she gets older, me telling her those stories, it is like these people trying to talk to me about things that they remember from back when my dad was around. And yeah, they get so excited. So it's really cool. You know, like I said, in the beginning, I didn't get it because I was just a young idiot bodybuilder. But now that I'm in the sport and I see other Mr. Olympias having kids and, you know, the sport living on through generations, I see why they just light up and they can't help themselves. They only want to talk about my dad. It's not disrespectful to me. It's just them having a spark of memory. And yeah, Rudy was the perfect example. It was so cool to see him so calm and demeanor. And then he was just so excited talking to me. And it is cool too, because a lot of people lie about that story, because it was Arthur Jones who gave me to my dad. But this is actually the third person who's told me that it was their idea to give me to my mom, to give me to my dad. But the way Rudy described it, it was for sure the truth, because it was just way too much detail. But that's really cool. And look how the sport comes. And that's what I put. I posted that I'm a Panada athlete. And, you know, I talked about what you guys already talked about, him holding me and stuff like that. But then I put, you know, hashtag full circle. And that's really cool. And there's, no matter what, if you like me, don't like me, like my dad, don't like my dad, no matter what, that's happening. No matter what, at some point, people are going to see me and Hunter go against each other. And you don't have to like us or not like us. But if you like the sport of bodybuilding, that's exciting.
Yeah. You know, I just want to remind people, you actually played your dad in the movie Bigger. in the bodybuilding scenes. They had a little. You shaved your head for that. Well, you already. Do you have hair
No, my
back?
head's already shaved. Yeah.
Well,
I just grew up. I grew a mustache for that.
It was eerie. Yeah. I mean, I didn't like that movie overall, but the competition parts, the parts with Arnold and the parts that showed competitions, I was like, why didn't they make this the whole movie? That's the movie I wanted to see. But yeah, who am I?
Another question for Sergio. Sergio, do you think the legacy of your legendary father was something that motivated you, or sometimes it was too much and wanted to escape and create your own legacy?
Yeah, it was never motivating, that's for sure. There was never a point in my life, still to this day, where it's like motivating. But there was a point where it's definitely overwhelming. I remember my first couple of shows that I did. Tim Gardner was actually one of the head judges down in Florida. So he's the first one that judged me when I was that weight, 176. I almost lied and put my mom's name. I used my mom's maiden name. But you have to match it up with your NPC card, and they match it up with your ID. So I tried to lie, but I couldn't. I got caught. So yeah, I was even thinking about doing shows just under a different name, because people think that it's a positive or a help. And maybe when it comes to sponsors or being able to do run online, of course, you might get little perks. But when it comes to being on stage, it's never going to be a positive. And that's what it's hard for people to understand, is that, and Aceto said it perfectly. If I do well at a show, you go like this. Well, yeah, duh. His dad's Sergio Oliva, of course.
Right.
If he does well, if he does shitty, then you're like, see, I told you, he's never going to be anything. He's never going to be his father. So even if I do well, it's just kind of like normal. It should be. And then if I do bad, then it's just how I'm not going to do something. Where if I was just somebody who just loved bodybuilding, like I do, and I just got into it on my own, like I did, with no help from anyone, then people would look at my body a little bit different and be like, oh, wow, he's got nice this, needs to work on this, but that's it. There's never going to be any like, you're never, or this is never going to happen. And that's the quick narrative when you have someone to compare you to. And unfortunately, I'm not being compared. I say this all the time. Hunter's being compared to his dad all the time. Sure. But his dad's not one of the best ever in the history of the sport, one of the best Mr. Olympias. So if Hunter wins an Arnold Classic, for instance, he's already on paper, did better than his dad. Yeah. I would have to win 4 Mr. Olympias to be better than my dad. It's so crazy to say out loud. It's insane. So I'm just the only person that there's this level that I have to live up to. And even though I'm doing it because I enjoy it, it doesn't matter really to anyone else, because they're always going to see that in me.
And you've cleared up many times, but I think a lot of people still don't realize this. A lot of people assume your dad helped you so much with bodybuilding, coached you, trained you, encouraged you, urged you. From what I recall, he didn't do a damn thing as far as your bodybuilding. He didn't even want you to be a bodybuilder, right? Yeah,
he did the opposite, right? He actually called gyms to stop me from training. Yeah, it's wild, when you think about it out loud. I think now that I'm older, obviously I can. When I was younger, I was just like so mad. Like, he did that when he called that last gym, and they gave me my money back because I found a gym that he wouldn't know about in this basement in Chicago, and they refunded my money. That's what made me move to Florida. I left Chicago. I was so upset. I was so mad. But, looking back now that I'm a mature adult and now I want to have kids myself, I was a swimmer. I did water polo. I did track. I did wrestling. I did football. I did basketball. I did everything but soccer and baseball. So now when I'm trying to do bodybuilding, of course my dad's just going to be like, yeah, sure. Now this is another one you're going to do. Another one you're really serious about. So he probably just really didn't want me to do it as like another sport I'm spending time away from school to do. And he thought maybe if I just stop him from training, he'll have to study and go to college. Yeah. And it just backfired when I just moved. I literally packed my car and drove away. It was
You told me horrible. Also that your mother was a bodybuilder, right?
My who?
Your mother.
Yeah. She was a pro.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, did she compete with like
Ron? You don't know that?
No. What was her name as a pro?
Its name is the same name as an amateur.
No, I don't know what her last name was. I know it wasn't Oliva.
Oh, right. I get what you're saying. Yeah, her name's Arlene Garrett.
Okay, yeah, doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, I posted pictures of her because she would do the splits in her routine. That's definitely why I'm able to do the splits. It's definitely from her. I've talked about it several times because all my music and my posing is from her, definitely. Because my dad, people don't ever want to talk about my dad's posing was horrible. It was actually god awful. He did like 37 most musculars. He did, 20 twisting Arnold back double buys, and then the victory pose. But all of them were shaking, and it was very like intense and like, very, I'm sure back then it was, gravitating. But if you put those routines in today, you'd just be like, oh my God, Jesus, this is the same pose over and over again.
It's funny you mentioned the myth pose, because that's the victory pose or myth pose.
Victory pose, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people that do it in shows, all the way from the smallest amateur shows to pro shows, should not be doing that pose. You have to have a very specific type of physique to pull that off, which you do.
I know. I don't even have it. I have no business hitting it. I just hit it for different reasons. But it's true. They tag me in it every day. I get at least one victory pose tagged every day. And if they're doing it like exactly the way you're supposed to do it, like Lee, my dad, and Brandon Curry can do, then sometimes I'll repost it. But a lot of them want to like turn their body, bend their arms completely. What you're doing is you're trying to change it to make your body look good. Right. And that's actually defeats the purpose, is that pose makes you look god awful. It's horrible. Yeah. So even times I've hit it, like, oh my God, I'm just like, what was I doing?
To anyone out there thinking about doing that in your routine, you better have some huge freaking arms. You better have lats that fly out and a little waist and some flaring quads. But if you don't have the big arms and that V taper, please do not hit that pose. You're going to look like a jackass. That's all.
At least don't tag me in it, please.
Man. Doc, let's close it out with some, what do you want to get into?
What's your plan, Sergio? Which is your first show you want to do? And which body parts are you focusing to improve now?
I really have been trying to figure out what show I'm going to do. I really need redemption at that Arnold. Because I know every bodybuilder says this, before the show or after the show. Oh, if I had just did the show right before, if I did the show after, I would have won it. But yeah, what I looked like before the Arnold and before Legion was I would have won the Arnold. And it's so crazy thinking that I'd be an Arnold Classic champ if I just trusted Chris, didn't get in my own head, and did what we always do and just try and come in peeled and not try and play the size game. So I really want to go back to the Arnold and get redemption, because it's actually the worst loss I've ever had too. It's the worst I've ever looked, and it's the worst placing I've ever got. I've never got a 6th place in my entire life. So I really want to go back, but that's what I've been doing these last 4 years. Is I have this idea that if I lose to Mr. Olympias or past Arnold Classic champs, I'm still doing better than winning a smaller show, like we said earlier in the show. So I keep putting all my eggs in one basket and going all in on the Arnold. But then what happens is if you don't win the Arnold, you don't qualify for the Olympia. So even if you get 2nd place at the Arnold, which is so amazing, you're still not qualified. Yeah. Like this past Brazil show that just happened yesterday, I could go right now and win. And then I'd be going to the Olympia. But because I'm just so wanting to level up and go against people that really, I either want to beat somebody good or get my ass beat by somebody good. Because then at least when I go back into the gym, I'm like, you know what, I can think of that person. I can, when I was standing next to Rami and Dexter for our call out, that's still in my head. And I remember that when I do my show. So going forward, I want redemption, but I cannot put all my eggs in that basket again and then try and jump into another show last minute, like I did with Legion, to try and get a qualification last minute, because that's just not how I do. I don't do well with bodybuilding like that. Some guys can do show after show after show. I just can't. And I learned that with Legion. So I need more time. So I was thinking maybe to do the Arnold Brazil.
Yeah, it's April, I believe, right? Usually April or May.
Yeah, it's around the same time frame, because I want to do a show early. I definitely do not want to wait to the end of the year to qualify. I want to have it done and then have that pressure off my back. And then I can do, for the first time in my life that I've never done, is do a show for fun. Never done that before.
Any ideas? Is there any particular show you've always wanted to do?
Well, I have to win Chicago. I will win Chicago before I retire. That's, even if I wasn't from there, now with the memories that I've had at that place and the close losses, I have to go back and win that show, let alone that's where I was born and raised.
Yeah.
So maybe win Brazil and then go to Chicago. That would be cool.
Yeah. And it's back in Illinois because for 2 years it was in Florida. No, Atlanta. It was in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Yeah. God.
Yeah. I was like, where am I? What show is this? This is ridiculous. And
It's technically not in Chicago. I just have to say that if there's people from Chicago watching, because
yes.
it bothers us all the time when they say it's in Chicago, but it's actually not.
Well, you'll find out real fast when you have to take that Uber from O'Hare Airport to Tinley Park, just how not Chicago Tinley Park is. It's a hike.
But technically, the New York Pro was never in New York either.
Well, it was for a while, but then they moved it to Jersey. Where is
Jersey,
it now?
right?
And that was in Florida for a couple of years. Yeah, you're right. The last time I was there a few months ago. It was in New Jersey again. You're right. Hasn't been in New York since I think the year you won might have been the last year it was in New York.
It was the last one. White Plains, New York. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a minute. Got to go back there. All right. Well, man, this has been amazing. I'm so glad, Dr. George, you hooked this up, because it's been way too long since I talked to you, Sergio. And I really did want to find out what you've been up to, what the heck you've been doing in Dubai, and what you got in store for us, because I still believe in you. I still want to see the best Sergio Oliva Jr. up on that stage, getting what's rightfully yours. I think you're one of the best. You should be one of the best. So make it happen.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron. I know you do. Trust me, being away too, it's been really nice to see really who's there for you. And that's why this sponsorship with Panada and even Black Skull, which is my supplement sponsor now, it's really insane, because I'm not even doing a show. I have two of the most supporting sponsors. It's different to just send you a check, but actually it's like supporting you. Yeah. And the first thing Black Skull said to me when they signed me is that they're not worried about how I do on stage. There's no pressure on that. When I do a show, if I do a show, or what I place in that show. And me and Rudy Panada talked about what show I would do, but we were already talking about signing me before that. And I haven't done a show in so long. So being away, besides them and a few people in the industry and a couple of the YouTubers that don't hate my guts, it's been really nice to see that you still kind of care about someone who is doing what every bodybuilder who disappears does. I know I'm going to take some time away. I'm going to get on it. And then they either never come back. They now all of a sudden are selling insurance, or they come back and it's just the most lackluster appearance ever. So I promise you, I didn't move out here for no reason. I didn't leave my family and my friends and everyone I know to come out here. It is really great. And I do talk about how great it is. But I do miss America, and I do miss my family. I miss my dog very much. So I would never leave all that to just come back even 1% better. I need to be a lot better, and I will be. So thank you.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. Ask Dr. Testosterone is a very, very special episode he made possible with Sergio Oliva Jr. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video. If you guys got some comments on all this, please leave them below. Whether you love me, Sergio, or George, or hate us, doesn't matter. We love all kinds of feedback. It's good for the algebra rhythm or whatever that stuff is. So that's it, man. Thanks for watching. Ask Dr. Testosterone. We'll see you next time.